He trusted his best friend like a brother. He paid his school fees, gave him a job, and handed him his business. But while he traveled with his family, that same friend planned his death. After a car crash, everyone believed he was dead, until years later, his daughter saw a madman and whispered, "This looks like my daddy." Chooks and Boyan were playing lawn tennis under the warm Abuja sun. Laughter filled the court as the ball moved fast from one side to the other. Chooks was very good at the game. His movements were sharp, confident, and full of energy. Boyan struggled to keep up, but he was enjoying every moment. "Ah, Chooks, slow down," Boyan laughed, bending forward with his hands on his knees. Chooks smiled. "You know I don't play to lose," he said, tossing the ball lightly in the air. They had grown up together. From childhood, they were inseparable. Chooks's family had always supported Boyan, especially when life became difficult for him. There was a time Boyan almost dropped out of school because his parents could no longer afford the fees. It was Chooks who stepped in without hesitation. He paid the fees and encouraged him to keep going. "Don't worry," Chooks had told him back then. "As long as I'm breathing, you're not alone." Both of them graduated in flying colors. Years later, Chooks's mother passed away, and he took over the family business. That was when he brought Boyan into the company. Before then, Boyan was struggling as a common clerk in a bank, barely surviving on his salary. To Boyan, Chooks was not just a friend. He was the brother he never had. 7 years later, Chooks had grown the company into a multinational business with 5 additional branches. Business was booming. His name commanded respect both in Nigeria and abroad. After the tennis game, the two men sat on a bench, breathing heavily and wiping sweat from their faces. That was when Chooks broke the news. "Boyan," he said calmly, "I'll be traveling with my family to the US for 1 week." Boyan looked at him. "The US?" "Yes," Chooks replied. "It has always been my daughter Kachi's dream to visit Disneyland. I want to use my 1-week leave to take them there." Boyan nodded slowly. "I'll need you to make sure the company runs smoothly while I'm away," Chooks added. "Of course," Boyan said. "You don't have to worry." The next day, Chooks and his family boarded a private jet to the United States. The journey took about 7 hours. 5-year-old Kachi could barely contain her excitement. She jumped into her father's arms. "Daddy, thank you!" she shouted happily. "I can't wait to take beautiful pictures and show my friends at school." Silva, Chooks's wife, smiled warmly and cuddled her daughter. Kachi was young, but very smart and intelligent. When they landed, an airport chauffeur drove them straight to Disneyland. Kachi enjoyed everything there was to enjoy. The rides, the characters, the laughter. It was the happiest time of her life. The family had a beautiful time together. Back in Abuja, Boyan sat alone in Chooks's office. The joy in his heart had disappeared. Anger burned in his eyes. "Why must it always be Chooks?" he muttered. "Why must he be the one living my dream life?" Jealousy had completely taken over his soul. "I have never been to the US," he said bitterly, pouring himself a glass of whiskey. "And he's there with his family, enjoying life." He paced the office, his thoughts dark and dangerous. Suddenly, he smashed the glass cup against the wall. "I will not fold my arms and watch Chooks have everything," he growled. Later that night, after office hours had officially closed, Boyan returned to the company premises. The gateman opened the gate. "Oga Boyan," the man said politely. "Did you forget something?" "Yes," Boyan replied calmly. "I came to pick up a very important file." Unknown to the gateman, Boyan had an evil plan. He asked the gateman to quickly buy him a bottle of water. The moment the man left, Boyan walked straight to the parking lot. He went to Chuk's official car, bent down, and cut the brake lines. When the gateman returned with the water, Boyan pretended to bring out a file from his bag. "Oga Boyan, here is your water," the gateman said. Boyan collected it casually. "I've gotten the file already. I'm leaving now." "Have a good night, sir," the gateman replied. As Boyan entered his car, a cold smile spread across his face. "Oh, my dear friend Chooks," he whispered, "soon you will be out of the surface of this earth, and everything you own will be mine." He laughed softly and drove away. Chooks and his family were having a beautiful time in the United States. After spending 5 exciting days at Disneyland, they traveled to Florida to relax by the beach. The sun was bright, the sea breeze was calm, and laughter filled the air. Chooks carried his daughter Kachi on his shoulders, while Silva walked beside them, smiling happily. Kachi laughed loudly as her little hands rested on her father's head. "My princess," Chooks said lovingly, "we are going back home tomorrow." Kachi frowned immediately. "Please, Daddy," she begged, "can we stay a little longer?" Chooks laughed softly. "Not this time," he said, "but we will come back next holiday, I promise." Silva held Kachi closer. She was happy. This trip had brought her family even closer together. While Chooks was enjoying precious moments with his wife and child, he had no idea that a dangerous plan had already been put in place to end his life, by the same man he trusted as a brother. The next day, back in Abuja, Chooks' driver prepared to take the official car for servicing, just as Chooks had instructed before traveling. As he was about to leave, Boyan stopped him. "No need," Boyan said casually. "The mechanic has already handled it." The driver paused. "Are you sure, sir?" "Yes," Boyan replied firmly. "You know the boss and his family are returning today. He will not be happy if he finds out the car was not ready." "Oh, thank you, Oga," the driver said with relief. "I almost forgot." That same day, Chooks and his family arrived back in Abuja. They settled in peacefully. Chooks made sure Silva and Kachi were comfortable before getting dressed for work. "I have an important meeting today," he said. "Chinese investors are coming. I can't afford to miss it." Silva nodded. "Be careful," she said softly. Chooks kissed her forehead, hugged Kachi tightly, and left for the office. When he arrived, his staff welcomed him warmly. Everyone was happy to see him back. In a good mood, Chooks ordered pizza for everyone in the office. "Lunch is on me today," he said with a smile. After some time, he called his driver. "Let's go," Chooks said. "I have another appointment to catch." They got into the car and drove off. A few minutes into the journey, the driver approached a sharp bend on the road. As usual, he pressed the brakes, but nothing happened. The brake pedal went flat. "Sir!" the driver shouted in panic, pressing harder. The car refused to slow down. The driver struggled to control the steering, but it was too late. The car lost balance, somersaulted violently, and crashed off the road. As the car rolled over, Chooks was flung out of the vehicle and thrown into a nearby bush. Everything went dark. The car burst into flames and burned beyond recognition. Hours later, news of the accident spread like wildfire. When Silva heard the news, she screamed and collapsed. Her world shattered instantly. Boyan was the one who broke the news to her. "There were no survivors," he said, pretending to be heartbroken. "They say the fire was too much." Silva cried uncontrollably. Everyone believed Chooks and the driver had burned to death in the crash. But Chooks was not dead. When he woke up in the bush, his head was pounding. His clothes were torn, his body weak, and his mind completely blank. He did not recognize himself. He did not know where he was. He did not remember his name, his family, or his life. He stood up slowly and began to wander aimlessly. Days later, ashes were gathered from the accident scene. Chooks was declared dead and buried. His name was written on a tombstone. While Silva was still mourning her husband, Boyan arrived the very next day with thugs. He presented falsified documents claiming that he was now the sole owner of everything Chooks had. This company was a joint partnership, he said coldly. Now that he is dead, everything belongs to me. Silva begged. She cried. She showed documents that proved she was Chooks' wife. It did not matter. She and her daughter were thrown out of the house with nothing. Bojan took over the cars, the businesses, everything. And somewhere far away, Chooks wandered the streets, lost, broken, and forgotten. After Boyan threw Silva and her daughter out of the house, Silva refused to give up immediately. She still believed justice would speak. With the little help she got from friends, she hired a lawyer. He was not a big lawyer, but he promised to fight for her. "This is your husband's property," the lawyer told her confidently. "We will contest it." For the first time in days, Silva felt a small spark of hope. The case went to court. Silva appeared in her simple dress, holding Kachi's hand tightly. Boyan arrived looking confident, dressed in an expensive suit, surrounded by senior lawyers. When the judge asked Boyan to present his documents, his lawyers brought out files, thick, well-arranged, stamped, and signed. They were perfect. The documents showed joint ownership. They showed transfer of assets. They showed signatures that looked exactly like Chooks. Silva's lawyer stood up confused. "My lord," he said, "these documents cannot be genuine. My client was never aware of any joint ownership." The judge studied the papers carefully. Experts were called. They examined the signatures. They checked the seals. They checked the dates. Everything looked real, too real to be fake. No one suspected anything. Silva was shaking. "My lord," she cried, kneeling in court, "this man is lying. My husband would never do this." Boyan sat quietly, pretending to look hurt. "Your lordship," his lawyer replied calmly, "we understand her pain, but emotions cannot change facts." The judge sighed. After hours of deliberation, the ruling was given. "The court finds no evidence of forgery," the judge said. "The documents presented are valid. The properties and businesses belong to Mr. Boyan Adewale." The words hit Silva like thunder. Her lawyer turned to her slowly. He had no answer. Silva held her chest as tears rolled down her face. Just like that, she lost everything. 2 years passed after Chooks was declared dead. Life had become very hard for Silva and her daughter Kachi. They were now living in a face me, I face you compound. The house was overcrowded and noisy. Everyone shared the same bathroom and toilet. Each morning, tenants formed a long queue just to bathe before going out. Sometimes, Silva would wake up as early as 4 a.m. just to secure a place in the line. This was not the life she once knew. Kachi no longer attended her former private school. Silva could not afford the fees. She enrolled her in a community school instead. Though the school was cheap, Kachi remained brilliant. She was always among the best students in her class. Silva did everything she could to survive. She washed clothes for people, she cleaned houses, she carried blocks of construction sites. At night, when Kachi slept, Silva cried quietly. She often stared at the ceiling, remembering the beautiful life she once lived with her husband. "Chooks," she whispered many nights, "if only you were here." Meanwhile, Bojan was living his best life. He took full control of the company and continued to run it successfully. Money flowed in daily, but instead of managing it wisely, he spent lavishly. Within 3 years, he bought a luxury house in Dubai and another in the United Kingdom. He traveled constantly: London, Dubai, Paris. One year, Bojan hosted his birthday party in Dubai on a private boat cruise. Beautiful women surrounded him. Music blasted loudly as people danced and drank expensive wine. "This life's sweet," Bojan laughed, raising his glass. As he partied and enjoyed himself with the wealth he stole, the man he once called brother was suffering deeply. Chooks was now a shadow of his former self. He wandered the streets of a faraway city, scavenging at trash sites. He picked discarded items: plastic bottles, scrap metal, anything he could find. People avoided him. Children mocked him. Some threw stones at him. He had no memory of who he was. He survived on food people gave him out of pity. Sometimes he slept under bridges. Other times in abandoned buildings. The mighty man who once owned a multinational company was now mentally broken and homeless. Silva stood in front of the mansion she once called home. The tall gate looked bigger than she remembered. The walls were freshly painted. New security cameras had been installed. Everything looked richer, except her life. She adjusted her faded dress and held her handbag tightly. Inside was nothing but an old purse and her daughter's school documents. She rang the bell. After a few seconds, the gate opened fully. A young gateman stepped out. He looked at her briefly, from head to toe. He had never seen her before. "Who are you looking for?" he asked. "I'm here to see Ogre Bojan," Silva replied softly. The gateman picked up his phone and made a call. Moments later, Bojan walked out of the house. He stopped when he saw her. For a brief second, their eyes met. Bojan's face hardened immediately. "What are you doing here?" he asked coldly. Silva swallowed hard and stepped closer to the gate. "Bojan, please," she said quietly. "I need to talk to you." "There's nothing to talk about," Bojan replied. "I'm begging you," Silva continued, her voice shaking. "Kachi's school fees are due. I just need help. Any amount." Bojan laughed bitterly. "Help?" he said. "Do you think money grows on trees?" He folded his arms and stood firmly in front of her. He did not invite her in. He did not open the gate wider. "Business has been bad," Bojan added. "I don't have money to give you." Silva looked at him in disbelief. "Bojan," she said softly, "this is Chuk's house. This is where my daughter grew up." Bojan's eyes became cold. "That man is dead," he snapped, "and this house is mine." Silva's lips trembled. She wanted to say more, but no words came out. Bojan turned to the gateman. "Close the gate," he said. The gateman obeyed immediately. The gate shut slowly in Silva's face. She stood there for a long time, staring at the gate. Her legs felt weak. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she wiped them quickly. She did not want the gateman to see her cry. She checked her purse. Empty. She had used the last money she had for transport. With no other choice, Silva began to walk home. The sun was hot. Her slippers were worn. Her feet hurt, but she kept walking. As she walked, memories flooded her mind. How she once rode past this same road in luxury cars. Now, she was walking like a stranger. That night, Bojan slept restlessly. Suddenly, he screamed. "No! No!" he shouted. In his dream, Chooks stood before him. Chook's clothes were torn. His eyes were red. His voice was deep and angry. "After everything I did for you," Chook said, moving closer, This is how you paid me back? Bojan tried to run, but his legs would not move. You killed me, Chooks continued. You sent my wife and my daughter away. Bojan shook his head in fear. I will hunt you, Chooks said, his voice echoing. I will hunt you till you die. Bojan woke up suddenly. His body was soaked in sweat. His heart was pounding violently. He sat up on the bed, breathing heavily. It's just a dream, he muttered. He wiped the sweat from his face and forced a laugh. Chooks, he said aloud, the living and the dead have nothing in common. He stood up and walked to the mirror. You're dead and gone, he said firmly. Dead. But even as he said it, his hands were shaking, and deep inside him, fear had already taken root. One hot afternoon, fate stepped in. A man working at a construction site noticed a woman carrying heavy blocks. As he looked closer, his heart skipped. Madam, Silva, he called out. Silva turned slowly. Do you remember me? The man asked. Your late husband helped me when I had nothing. He paid my hospital bills and gave me work. Silva broke down and told him everything. How she lost her husband, her home, and her life. She explained how she now survived through menial jobs just to train her daughter. The man shook his head in pain. Your husband was a good man, he said. I owe my success to him. That day, he made a promise. He moved Silva and Kachi into a well-furnished two-bedroom apartment. He paid their rent, provided monthly allowance, and took over Kachi's education completely. To Silva, he was heaven sent. Years passed. Kachi grew into a beautiful, intelligent young woman. At 18, she gained admission into the University of Lagos to study medicine and surgery. Her mother cried tears of joy. One day, the university organized a picnic to waterfalls in Ogun State. On their way, the bus stopped briefly so students could buy water. Kachi stepped down. Then she froze. A man stood nearby, dirty clothes, bushy hair, long beard. He looked mad, but his face... Her heart began to race. This man looks like my daddy, she whispered. Trembling, she picked up her phone and called her mother. Mom, Kachi said softly, I think I just saw Daddy. Silva's voice shook. What? Where? When? Kachi turned around again. The man was still there, watching. Do you think that man is truly her father? Comment. Part 2 for the continuation of this story.